Hi, my name's Rose and welcome to episode 5 of Building a Home Recording Studio from Scratch. So last time it was really great. We got to speak to Sam Brown, who told us about her journey with using music technology. Today we're speaking to Anne Bailey, who's a session singer and writer, about how she uses music technology at home and internationally using the internet. Hi Annie.
Hey Rose.
Thanks so much for speaking with us today.
Yeah, no problem.
So we've just got a few questions about music technology and how you use it, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
So the first one is, when did you first decide to start using music software at home? And what was it that prompted you to do it in the first place?
I started probably about 14 years ago, and the reason was I used to have all the old outboard gear, you know, no software.
Right, yeah.
And that's not really very practical. And when I moved to the UK, because I married an Englishman, I didn't have any equipment, and I kept getting asked to do some vocal arranging or even some recording.
Right.
And the odd question would be, can you record it yourself and not come into a studio that we've booked for you? And so, you know, I knew friends that had, you know, some software, and I'd, of course, seen it recorded of all the session work that I'd done. I'd seen Cubase and all, you know, all the different Pro Tools and the different software programs. And I would always pay attention because I'm just curious anyway. So you know, and I would ask the odd question, and then I thought, you know what, I can do this. I can engineer my own software. So I did a little research. I preferred literally just preferred the look of Pro Tools to the other softwares, programs that I'd seen, and decided to go with that. And then, of course, I got on the phone with some other musicians that I'd known and worked with in Nashville and asked just for some little mini tutorial so that I could just get it up and running. But I didn't have any sort of formal training, and everything that I know how to do is really pretty well self-taught, or just sort of trying things out, you know, not being afraid to just go in and do something.
Yeah, great. Okay, cool. So you've explained that you use Pro Tools. Yeah. And you said it was purely aesthetically. Do you find it quite easy to use and that as well? Did you find? Or?
Yeah, I do. I have Pro Tools LE, which I think has now been replaced, or maybe it's just called Pro Tools. I don't really know. But, it is the basics, like Pro Tools Lite, because I'm not in my studio recording drums and bass and, you know, all this stuff. It's not necessary for me to have the full pro kit. And that's not to say that what I have isn't pro kit, because it absolutely is. Lots of studios that I've been in, it's just Pro Tools Lite. But while it is a little intuitive.
Yeah.
If you're naturally curious, you'll be just fine, you know? But really, I think anybody, even if you go from zero to just have no experience with recording software, if you were able to sit down with someone and just watch them for a few hours, you can absolutely get up and set up a session and get yourself recorded. And really, it's from there that you learn how to get the finer points of getting a decent recording now, and not just getting something slapped on there. But it depends on what you need the software to do for you. If you're just demoing things, really, you'll learn to a certain level, and then you're kind of good. And then if you want to learn more, you can. But of course, there's all kinds of things now available, tutorials and online even, that you can take for free, and you can learn a little bit extra as you go.
Yeah, sure. Oh, okay, great. Okay, so in what areas of your work would you say it's essential to have music technology as a resource, i.e. you couldn't live without it or do a certain job? I mean, I know that you recently been working with Ward Thomas. You know, have you found that you've needed to have this as a resource at home to do that kind of work?
Well, it made my life a whole lot easier, because after we'd write the songs, then I would need to write the vocal arrangements. And so if I had to go into a recording studio to do that writing, I, of course, have to pay for that.
Yeah.
And that's an hourly fee. And, you know, you're writing. You don't know how long it's going to take. You try this, try that. So it was pretty essential, because not only could I do it, you know, after everything's paid for, it's free. So, but I could take my time, and I could do it after dinner or before I walk the dog or whenever, you know. But I could get right on it. I wouldn't have to worry about finding an engineer or finding a studio, and it's right here, and it's really,
and it's kind of nice, isn't it? Because you've got like your own headspace to to focus without a distraction maybe of someone else.
Yeah, and where that really came into its own, you referenced the Ward Thomas album, is that I was able to do a full vocal arrangement recording and against the demo that we did here. And then I took my charts to Nashville with me to record them again in the studio when we recorded the album properly.
Right.
So I couldn't have done... it would have been a nightmare to try to do the arrangements because some of them are a little bit complex and way too difficult to have to, there's no way I can score all this stuff out. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So it's best that I can just pop it down and I can do it really lush. And
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's not something I would ever want to do without.
No. And you won an award for the album, I understand?
Yeah, collectively, of course, the team, we won Album of the Year from the British Country Music Association, which is really quite fun. Yeah. Fantastic news,
Yeah, great. Cool. Okay, so the kind of work that you do sort of, internationally via the internet, how do you find this kind of work? Is it just through connections, or do you actively say, well, I can do this via, online and offer your services that way?
When I started, of course, 150 years ago, there was no sort of online presence, and it was really word of mouth in whatever city you're in, and you have to build your client base and word gets around. And when I moved here, there was still a bit of that, but I was fortunate in that my husband had a website building company, and he said, well, look, we'll do a website. You need a web presence. And I thought that made sense because I didn't know a lot of other session singers that had websites. And I thought, this is really where people are finding everything is online. So if I have a decent website, and I have my own studio, it doesn't matter where any of the clients are. They just send me their file, and it can be even emailed to me. It doesn't even have to be as fancy as Dropbox, or it doesn't have to be fancy. They just get me an MP3 of their music. Tell me, maybe sometimes I would Skype with someone and get they would tell me what they want in the song, and then I just go in and get on with it. Yeah. So anyone that might be looking at me as a potential singer on their song can really see the whole picture before they ever even contact me. Right. So it's been so useful. I mean, it's been critical, really. Yeah. It's made I've been in full-time work since I got rolling with it, really.
Yeah, great. What advice do you have for getting a good quality professional vocal sound at home?
Yeah, okay. I would think that there are two things that you can't really mess around with. You've got to have a decent microphone. That's going to make a huge difference. And you need to find out what microphone is right for your voice, because they're not all right for your voice. There will be some that are better than others. And there's really every kind of price range, the spectrum. So that's one. Go to a music shop, speak to somebody that knows the microphones, sing for them. Yeah. Test different microphones, listen back, get some professional advice, because if you don't really know anything about microphones, you probably won't know what to listen for when you're listening back. Is this good? Do I sound better on this one? Get some pro advice. It's free. Invest in the best microphone that you can afford. Yeah. And the other thing is that if you can get either a very dead room, in other words, make the room dead with some soundproofing, usually a nice small room, or you can be in a normal sized room and get a screen that they're remarkable, actually, how well they work.
We talked about these in previous articles. Yeah,
it is incredible. You can be in a really live room, but put this in front and it absolutely grabs the voice and holds it fast. Yeah. So that's a good investment too. They're a little bit pricey, but they're worth it. And if this is the only gear that you're really having to invest in besides your software, then you're good to go. But those are the two things that if you want a good vocal sound, you've got to have a nice, good microphone, a dead room, and then the rest is sort of equipment to help you along. Yeah. What I think is important to say to people who are considering buying some gear to record at home is don't be afraid of it. Right. Even if you're not particularly techie. Now, I joke to say that I was born a boy because I like all the boy stuff, and I like gear and toys and all things that are that girls usually hate.
Right, like gadgety stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love gadgets. Yeah. So
Right.
I think I'm the exception. But I know
Okay.
some singers who are not remote. They don't even know how to work their iPhone, you know?
Right.
But they record at home because they've worked it out.
Okay.
So don't be afraid of it because it will change your career. It can
Yeah.
change your career if you're a decent singer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so would it be okay to have a little look at something that you've done on, on the computer?
Of course.
Great. Thanks for letting us in
Yeah.
to your world.
Privileged.
I know.
It's not big enough to have any more than one person.
So, yeah, do you want to tell us then about the project you've been working on and a bit about
Yeah,
what you
here's a
use?
really sort of classic example of what I'm hired to do. So
Okay.
somebody needs some vocal arranging done or wants a top line written on a song. And this is we're writing for a Motown artist here.
Okay.
So you up at the top here, you'll see I've got a lead vocal up at the top.
Oh, yeah.
And you can record as many passes of those as you want and save them all on top of each other. That's called playlisting. It's really a handy thing to do, and then you can refer to those other passes as and when you need to.
Great. Okay.
And then everything that you see below here, these are all backing vocal parts.
Oh, wow.
Now, years ago, I was told in the studio that to get a nice, lush backing vocal sound, to record the part more than once. And rumor had it at the time that Mariah Carey was recording her backing vocal parts 20 deep. It's called deep.
Wow.
Yeah, so
20, that's a
one
lot.
part is recorded 20 times on 20
Yeah.
different tracks. But that's where that really lush sound comes from. Now, you might not want a lush sound sometimes. So sometimes you want it to sound a little bit more live and less sort of produced.
Yeah.
So like one backing vocal or two on each part can do it, and then you experiment with panning them left and right, and you can it'll change the sound when you start messing with multiple tracks. So that's something that you should explore when you get your equipment. Just say, what does
Yeah.
it sound like if I do the same part 5 times? How does that change the sound, and how does that change the song?
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
So, so what you can also do that makes it really easy is I group them into parts. So I've just highlighted here. That's one part. All 4 of those lines are exactly the same.
Okay.
Sung just 4 times. But if I need to do anything with them as a group, I can now because I've selected group over here and I put them in a little group. It just makes your editing a whole lot easier and faster. So, so for example, I'll start this sort of part way in here with our lead vocal, so we can get an idea of the sound. So I've just got basic effects on this right now, just to kind of get me in the mood. I'm no mixer, and any producer would listen to that and say that girl needs to be fired. But it gives me an idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the backing vocals come in, and you can play with the levels with those too, because of course they're not going to want them as loud as your lead vocal. So you can play with them here. You can bring them up or bring them down, whatever you feel the song needs. You know, if you're doing balance. And of course that's a little CPU overload, and you don't need to know what that is. It's boring. But, you know, this gives me the ability to see and hear what I've visualized for the song. And if I don't like it, I can scrap it, delete it.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really cool about Pro Tools is if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal, even if you delete something, because you just undo, you know. You can undo as many, I don't know if there's a limit even. I haven't had to test it, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But you just need to get in there and go for it. You're not going to hurt it. You're not going to do anything wrong.
Yeah. You can just have to play around.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So the mixing page, this is called the mixing page. And, you know, once you've recorded, these are all your tracks, same tracks as this, okay? So if I decided, oh, I really just want to listen to what's going on here, I can solo it.
Yeah.
So I soloed all my 4 tracks there because I've got them grouped together, and there's soloed here as well.
Cool.
I've also got the backing vocals panned left and right, so there's 2 on the left, 2 on the right. Again, that gives me a different experience of the sound.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's all dead center, to me that sounds really kind of dead. But once you start panning them, it's almost as if sonically the room has opened up, and it sort of has, because you're putting 2 of the voices over there and 2 of the voices over there.
Yeah. Cool.
So again, it's all just kind of experimenting. And up here you can add whatever effects that you want to do, and you can EQ it, or dynamics, or reverb, or delay, or you just assign as you go. And that's another sort of the next level.
Yeah.
Just
And you
of
get a bit deeper
experimenting.
into
Yeah,
it.
it's actually really good fun.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
so there we have it. Yeah, so now I'll have
Great.
that, and I'll be able to it's called bounce that file. You make a recording of it, send it off to the client. They say, love this, but hated that at 2 minutes 04, whatever. And then you just go, oh, 204, oh, I know the section he liked. I didn't like that either.
Right,
and
right.
you just delete it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, do it again. And
Yeah, it's all fluid. It's all always in motion, and there's
Great.
really nothing you can't do.
Yeah, that's great. So how do you normally send it to people? Would you normally put it into an MP3 for them to listen to and email it, or Dropbox
this is something that's actually a little bit of a warning, I think, to singers, is when you've done some work and they're going to approve it, because they're going to want to listen to it, because they're not there in the studio listening to you do it. So you have to offer them that. Send an MP3, because the quality is the lowest quality. So if you send an MP3, they're less likely to be able to actually use it in any way.
Okay.
And then when they've approved everything, then you bounce your files individually. So I would, for example, I would solo the lead vocal, bounce that, and send it as a higher quality file, like a waveform.
Yeah.
And then I would go and highlight my first grouping of BVs, what I call BV1, and then send that, and then highlight the next one. Well, you have to solo it, actually. You have to solo it.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to highlight it, you solo it. And that's all that audio is soloed out. So they can then mix it however they want to. They're not held to your mix.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great.
Yeah.
Cool. And so, what sort of equipment do you use then? So we've got headphones. And interface as well.
Yeah, there's really only a few things in here, which is good. Absolutely critical is a really good microphone. I'll tell you about that in a second. But something that people don't necessarily think about until you've done quite a few sessions and you're spending hours in the studio is your headphones.
Yeah.
You can get great headphones, and sonically they're really great and crisp and lots of detail. But you know what? It's just as important that they're comfortable.
Yeah.
So because you got these on forever and your ear gets hot and it's sore. So what I suggest, these happen to be Beyer headphones, and I think they're about the best headphones that I've ever used.
Yeah.
These are the DT770 Pros, okay, if anyone's interested, by Beyerdynamic. But what's great is that these are really cushioned and they're big. So your ear actually sits inside, and this doesn't press against your ear itself. It presses against your head. And of course, when you're a studio singer, actually you should, it's up to you if you want to, but it's one ear off and one ear on. And with that one ear off should be actually pressed against the back of your head, so you reduce spill or bleed into the microphones, because of course the sound's coming through here and it's picked up by your microphone.
Yeah, sure.
So great set of headphones.
Great.
Over here I've got, I have to have a processor of something. I don't have to, but it's just better than with the plugins that come with Pro Tools. So I have a Joe Meek processor.
Okay.
And what that means is I've got compressor and de-essing and really all the sort of plugins that I would need to give a little bit more of a pro sound.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't have to invest in that, certainly not initially. This is called an interface. An interface is what's going to convert the sound to something that the computer understands.
Yeah.
So you have to get an interface. These are not expensive, and Pro Tools, the company that owns Pro Tools, which is Avid, they have some that they sell. This is an M-Box. So that's that. They all really work together. That's kind of the entry-level stuff. That's really quite good.
Yeah.
So then I have my microphone, which it is essential that you have a very, very good microphone, whatever you can afford. Now, if you're starting out and you're saying, I got a couple of $100 to spend and that's about it, go look at Rode microphones, R-O-D-E. They've really taken the market by storm because of the quality at such a good price. You know, they're really decent quality. I happen to have here, this is my little pride and joy, this is a vintage Neumann U87. And this was made the year I was born, and I won't tell you what that year is. But it just is the right sound for my voice, and it's a favorite in studios, the Neumann.
Right.
So, and then my pop screen, of course, that's essential too.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I have my Pro Tools.
Yeah.
So Pro Tools Lite.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Great.
Really, besides the cabling, but when
Yeah.
you speak to somebody at the music store, they're going to tell you what you need, you know.
Yeah,
And,
sure.
you know, hopefully you'll have someone that will be able to help you out and
Yeah.
set you up and
Yeah.
get you started.
Well, thanks for showing us that. That was great.
No
Good
problem.
to see an example of what you do. So do you see yourself as a naturally good techie type? You mentioned that you kind of see yourself as a boy in terms of liking gadgets and stuff. Or do you think you were pretty old school before you were faced with this kind of stuff then, or?
Well, I wouldn't say I was old school. I had the old gear,
Yeah.
but I don't think I was old school. But,
Yeah.
but I don't want that to put anybody off and think, well, no, she liked that stuff and she naturally, you know,
Yeah.
was curious without, you know, technological things.
Yeah.
That shouldn't stop you because you're only going to learn this thing one step at a time anyway. So how hard can it be? It's like
Yeah.
it's learning anything, and it's so worth it.
Yeah. Great. And so finally, do you have any top tips or do's and don'ts for setting up a home recording studio for our icing readers?
Well, like I said before, you need to invest in a really good microphone, and of course, just a stand for that. And I'm a huge fan of Pro Tools.
Yeah.
It is what I think it's. I don't know the statistics, but I see it more in the session work that I do when I go out to studios. I see Pro Tools far more. 90% of the time it's Pro Tools.
Right.
I would say 100% of the time in the United States on the sessions that I do there, it's Pro Tools.
Right. Right.
So, you know, if you're getting into sessions and you're on a session and you see they're using Pro Tools, after the session, go up and ask the engineer a couple of questions.
Yeah.
And then, you know, jot them down, go home, try it.
Yeah.
So other gear, you can use duvets, pillows, you know, sort of just kind of propped up around you to help deaden the sound. I mean, you don't need to spend a lot of money.
No, actually, I recorded once with a mattress, like up against the wall.
I saw a picture of a woman recording an audiobook. She had to travel, and in her hotel, she turned a chair sort of. So it made like a cave, and then she used the bedspread and the pillows around, and she sat there and recorded.
Great.
Just use what you've got. Any soft furnishings, anything that's going to soften that sound is going to help.
Okay, great. That's great. Well, thanks a lot for talking to us today.
Pleasure.
So I hope you found it as interesting as I have hearing from Annie today. It's becoming really apparent to me that as singers, it's a really useful tool to use music technology at home now, both to make us, you know, more rounded musicians, but also in terms of making us more employable as well. So it'd be really great to hear from you guys as to how you use music technology at home yourselves, whether you face any challenges or things that have worked really well for you as well. You can email your experiences to questions@icingmag.com. And some of those will be featured in the next episode, which is episode number 6 of this series, and the final one, so don't miss it.